Rule number 2, in part 2, concepts don't last forever. That, right there, is the Soviet Union. Okay? Right there, yeah. There's all that land, yeah. It was a concept based on uniting certain countries and basically making them a union. Okay? Now it lasted from, technically, it lasted the moment the Bolshevik Revolution started, which had been about 1917, 1918. Alright? But it didn't come to full effect till about 1922. And it lasted till almost 1992 when it was dismantled in 1991 in December 12th, I believe. Probably wrong on the date, the actual day. But anyway, rule of thumb, concepts do not last forever. Concepts change. Okay? Our concept of color will eventually change. Our concept of language will eventually change. The language itself will not only change, but the concept of it will change. The concept of unions, kingdoms, empires, and all sorts of continents, they will all change. Not only the words that we describe, if we even have a similar concept, it's going to be different. Okay, eventually it will change. It will be different. Okay, concepts are ever changing. Alright, we add new definitions in, we add old definitions out, whatever. Pantheism. That's the concept that gods are based off the natural world. Okay, how would that concept be different from the actual God? Well, one, we admit, for one, we don't have religion. For two, we admit that, well, there may or may not be a consciousness. We're agnostic in that point of view. For the most part, some of us will take the spiritual leap. I occasionally take the spiritual leap, and maybe conscious, but I still said it wrong, maybe. But, it's still, the universe, okay? 2, it's the universe. It's material. It's not invisible. Okay, that's another one. 3, it does not require worship. Another one. 4, there's no afterlife, usually, unless you want to go the route of the reincarnation. The, E equals mc squared stuff, the law of conservation of energy and mass, which was later added on. It used to be just the law of conservation of energy, then they tacked on and mass. Anyway, so the concept there of God changes. It not only changes over time, but changes in regional and just belief structure. It technically changes based on personal preference as well. Like I said, I was getting into the concept of race, for instance. That's another little concept I love to tackle. Okay, for one, that is a concept. Alright? Anything beyond the form that you try to link up, that's called a concept, right? Take, for instance, white people. First off, we're not white, but our form, it's a shorter version of saying white-skinned people. First off, we have white, the color white, which, or technically, peach. Anyway, but you have this color, okay? And you have people, and you link that two together. Then you start linking all the things, that associate with the continent of Europe, the, empires, the, all the little stuff that Europe's done, mathematics, that's more so Middle East or whatever. But you link it all up in this concept, it includes the blonde-haired, blue-eyed people, it includes the green-haired, green-eyed people, and the mixtures thereof. It includes dark-haired people. It's based on skin, so you got another link to skin. Okay, whereas Hitler did it the other way, where you had the link to blonde hair, blue eyes. Okay, everyone who's blonde hair, blue eyes, regardless of whatever family or whatever geographical area you come from, you're automatically linked. And then I talked about the Aborigines. And they love to say they're black people with blonde hair. Okay, there's a call coming in. We're going to ignore that, though. Personally, yeah, you can flip it around and say, well, they are a blonde people with dark skin. Okay, it's just the same. Now I talked to my last video actually has a photo of the Dinka tribesmen dyeing their hair red. I've already talked about in my last video that the sexual attraction is based more on the hair color. There's extensive study on that, more so than skin color. Matter of fact, eye color is another sexual attraction. Now, people who have dark hair and dark eyes usually tend to probably, and especially in the society that America has created and the West has created with skin color, tend to focus only on skin color. But people who have differing colors, now granted my hair does not look that blonde on this, but that's because the color's off. okay, completely. But I also have blue eyes, but you cannot see that. So we tend to think about the differences of eye color and hair color a lot differently than y'all do, than people who have dark hair. Okay, you know, y'all tend to focus, I guess, on skin tone, but y'all still do focus on hair color. Okay, hence the dark-haired women a lot of times try to dye their hair blonde or have blonde highlights. Okay, honestly, I think, well, whatever. Most men like it, so y'all can go for it. Okay, but it's just not my taste. But you know, it attracts the mate because you know that hair color majority of the world is rare. In fact, I think in Scandinavia they actually have women who dye their hair black. Okay, men will also do this to varying degree, but not so much. Now, anyway, so that ties into the concept of sexual attraction. Okay, but then it can also tie into the concept of grouping. Okay, we also do geographical grouping. I already told you that if you want to be technical, North America, South America, Africa, Asia, Europe, none of that exists. Okay, it might be hard for at first to realize it, but as we can see from looking from the Atlantic point of view, kind of have two huge landmasses. You have this one over here, down there, and that one down there. Okay, two huge landmasses. All right. Now, I know this is like very elementary, but this does tie into something that's a bit more intelligent. Trust me. Okay, yet we divide it. Okay, first off, this huge landmass right here, right down here, is split off into three. Now, if you really look at it, you want to divide it by, I know this is old like I did, it's the same map with the Soviet Union there, but if you want to divide it by water, you really can't. You can't. You can't do that. Because then you have to lump up all that landmass into one. Now here's Indonesia, right? Oh, crap. Right down there. Okay? I got it on there? No. No. We're way over here. Okay. Anyway. We'll do this. There we go. There's Indonesia. Right down there. Okay? Yeah. Notice how it is made of mostly just islands and blah, 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 blah. Okay, several different islands. You notice that one little island has that little red right there? They split in two. That's the concept I'm talking about. Okay? For those of y'all who are probably still in high school. The rest of us, we already know what the heck's going on. Anyway. Okay? That's what I mean by concept. Okay, you go by geological structure, blah, blah, blah. You know, like I said, there's Eurasian plate, there's Somalian plate, there's Nubian plate. No African plate, no Europe plate, no Asia plate. India does have its own plate. So there is an Indian plate. Congratulations. No, just messing. But, oh yeah, here's another one. Now, if you want to, that's from looking from space from one direction. If you're coming from another direction, okay, right here, go to the North Pole, all of a sudden, North America and the top of Asia look similar, or look attached a little bit. Now, granted, there is a little waterway or whatever, but between Alaska and Russia, but you know they're not going to notice that. There's going to be a cloud over there. You know, so then they'll be like, oh, it's this little circle landmass, water in the middle. That's interesting. There you go. Okay, so it depends on your viewpoint. It depends on what you're exposed to. It depends on how you want to define something. It depends on your wording for it. It depends on just so many variables to create these concepts. Okay, it's very important that you learn this because you have to free yourself from, because human beings love to get tied up in a concept. Money. Okay, we talk about jobs. Oh my God, there's no jobs. Oh, we can't, people can't feed themselves in America. The problem with that is that the stores, okay, I know I've worked at many. They throw away food. They let it sit on the shelf and nobody buys it. It goes bad and they throw it away because they didn't get the whole little paper. They didn't get that little symbol that that represents. Okay, I'm trading you for this paper for that food. They didn't get that, so they're like, no, we're just gonna leave it on the shelf, let it rot. They're doing that more. I've had to throw away good canes. Okay, that old people could have used. Okay, or people who have broken legs, or people who just needed a cane. But I had to throw it away. All right, because nobody was buying it. So I don't really buy the whole job loss thing. I don't really buy the whole money is there to make sure that we don't run out of resources. Okay, because for several reasons. One, like I said, we throw away a lot of stuff. Two, it's never really about controlling the resources, more so controlling the population or the population as a whole. Now you can talk about the massive population explosion. Okay, there's only really two places in the world that haven't got the birth rates under control. It's Africa and the Middle East. Now these are once again concepts, and there are exceptions. South Africa, the country, has low birth rates, and Algeria has low birth rates, and there's one other country in Africa. So it's not like, okay, you're attached to this concept of this land, so that automatically makes you have huge birth rates, or attached to this certain race, that makes you have huge birth rates. No, it's the culture that involves that. Culture itself is a concept, and its foundation is set upon many concepts. Okay, religion being one. Yes, I'm moving my hair. I'm probably getting so. It's like, yeah. Anyway. Okay, we'll continue on with this. But yeah, so it's not really based off of anything except for culture, and like I said, culture has several different connotations attached to it and whatnot. In the Middle East, they're kind of getting their birth rate. Iran's got their birth rate under control. Okay, it's 1.9. So nobody's growing. Then they make the excuse that, well, now there's too much old people. Now we're going to have immigration to come there. And the population never decreases. Okay, the way that the economy works, they want you to decrease the population to help out the planet. But yet the way the economy works, you can't have a decreasing population. Okay, you have to get the population somewhere. If everybody starts decreasing, then the whole economic system is going to collapse. Why is that? Because it's based upon money. It's based upon, I guess the banking system. It's based upon jobs and what have you, and yeah. Change the concept of economics, okay? It's not really that hard, okay? They actually, in America, they pay farmers not to farm too much food. The reason for that is because they want to make sure the prices don't go down. You farm too much food, then you have to sell it, and everything becomes cheap, okay? It's, supply and demand. There's plenty of supply, very little demand, then you're going to have to sell it for cheaper and cheaper until somebody actually buys it, okay? But that concept only works if we really were low on resources. We're actually really not that low. Okay, like I said, you get your population under control like Europe. Europe's actually gaining resources. They no longer have to really build any more new schools. They can recycle some of their old text and everything to the new students. And that's another thing I want to get into about like literacy rates in certain countries. You got to really look at the birth rate and how fast their child population is growing. Okay, because that's how many new schools are going to have to build, that's how many new texts they're going to have to generate. Meanwhile, in a country that has low birth rates, low replacement level, the child population is decreasing, which allows for them to say, okay, well, we can stick them in this school, we don't have to spend so much money on education, or we can spend just as much money on education, but now we can spend it on, on computers, more advanced computers, because, per child, you don't have that many children you have to spend it on. Okay, so if you have $100 million split between 100 children, okay, you're going to be able to spend more than $100 million split between 100,000 children or 100 million children. Okay, so we'll get to that later, but that has nothing to do with conceptual reality. Kind of does. But basically, the simple point is concepts change. Okay, nothing lasts forever. The concept of being human. Okay, like I said, you look at it from outer space point of view, anything that comes from the planet, say you name the planet, I like this phrase, Gaian. Okay, we're all Gaians. Okay, from the dog to the bird, because we all came from the plant. That's the commonality. Okay, that's one concept. See, with one concept you can unite people, but with other concepts you can divide them. Okay, the continental divide concept, the race divide concept, the national divide concept, the kingdoms and the empire divide concepts. Linguistics is sort of a natural concept because we all are eventually going to spread out. It's like, okay, they can't, these two tribes split apart. They eventually have built different noises for the same object. Okay, and the cultures that are nearest to each other have a similar sound for that object. The further you get away from that, the more different it is because they're not exposed to, okay, that's what you call this is what we call it. Okay, but so basically, there you have it. All right, linguistics is explained. Okay, because a baby when he's a newborn, in order to remember something, he's going to have to make a noise for it, so he can, conjure up, okay, I remember that. It's a survival instinct. Otherwise, you're not going to remember it. You're going to remember for that moment, okay, I fear that, okay, I'm going to go over here and, you know, and then forget about it later and you go in the same area. Children do that all the time. And the more developed your brain gets, the more you're able to, you know, come up with that concept. Okay, it's over there. If I go there, that thing's going to be there. You can give it a name. And so when that name pops up, you have the form, you have the area where it's at, you know to avoid it, you know if it's dangerous or not. Animals, on the other hand, don't really go by noise. Some do. The majority of them associate with smell or with just particular I want to say, I think it's hearing is one, but dogs definitely smell. They associate everything with smell. Okay? And that's how they remember. That's how they, you know, come up with their concepts. Alright? But the important thing to realize is that everything you think that is concrete in this world is actually more so a concept. Okay, based off the form, the differing forms. Okay, you say, okay, a group of people. You say that group of people all look the same. That's because you have very little contact with them. So you come up with a broad name for them all. You start living amongst them, start noticing the differences. You start coming up with different names for those type of people and that type of people. Yeah, they look the same at first, but now you start to notice several differences. Take the Native American tribes. We all lump it up as Native Americans, but they had Cherokees, Choctaws, Tahlequahs, Seminoles, the Swi, the Delaware, you know. They had all that. Okay, but we label Native Americans because their language all their languages were foreign to us. So it all just sounded like a bunch of random noise. We couldn't distinguish the languages. We couldn't really distinguish the different cultures because we couldn't distinguish the language. We couldn't decipher what they were thinking. All you saw was a bunch of people that looked similar, lived in a similar area, to our concept of a similar area, and so we labeled them all one group. It's not until we started dealing with these tribes and with these tribes, okay, those are hostile, those are not, and these do this and these do that, and you start developing a differing concepts for each of them. They're all tend to be labeled into one concept or lumped up into one concept, but you're going to have several different, you know, the concepts get broader. Like the artist with the, you know, paint and with colors and all that. So basically, you have the, you know, racism does tend to diminish once you actually live amongst the people. But, you know, from a distance, you know, you first encounter, it's like, oh, you know, you can't really distinguish it, you know, because you focus on one, you know, difference. Oh, they all have blonde hair. So you just concentrate on the blonde hair, you concentrate on that one concept, that one underlying concept. You know, you really concentrate on the differing colors of blonde hair, you're just going to notice that they have blonde hair. So you're going to see them as just being blonde people. You know, because that's the one thing that distinguished them when you first met. And it's not until you get to, okay, these people are these people, those people are those people. Same with skin color. You go to one country, you're just looking, okay, they're all the same. Okay, it's not until you live with them that you start realizing, oh, there are differences. Okay, you know, hey, your tribe's taller, your tribe is smaller, your tribe does whatever it is you do. You know, it's you start broadening the concept. Okay, but the problem is a lot of people love to be attached to their concepts. Okay, they love to say, okay, well, this came from there, so that proves my concept. Not necessarily. Okay, because concepts are concepts. All right, yeah, you draw the line here, I can easily erase that line and draw the line down here. Okay, it differs, you know. But anyway, yeah, that's about it. Okay, YouTube, I will